Jumbo, everyone. This is me, Zhao Butcher Godfrey, founder of Jumbo Books, and I'm really excited today because I'm here with Gwendolyn Valerius, who is the author of Queen Baby, which is one of our 0 to 2 books for July. And we're very lucky because Gwendolyn is going to do a reading of Queen Baby for us. So without further ado, I will turn it over to you, Gwendolyn. Thank you so much, Gwendolyn. That book brings me so much joy.
Thank you.
Especially because my baby, who is now 11 months old, also cries after we put her down to sleep and we think we're done. And she also treats her older sisters like her court jesters. Like, you all need to entertain me. Try your best.
Exactly.
So can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Are you in the Kingdom of Jersey?
Yes, I am in the Kingdom of Jersey. I transplanted from Tallahassee, Florida. I've been here for about, 15 years, I think, something around there. So starting to feel like a New Jerseyan, but not quite. The South is still in me. The South is still there. But I got into writing. I've been writing for, a long time. I started when I was in 5th grade. I wrote my first book in 5th grade about, just me and my friends and the boy that I had a crush on. And in that world of the book, I got to be, his girlfriend in 5th grade, right? But it was just really fun, being able to create, worlds and places that, maybe you can't visit and you want to visit, or worlds that just appear in your head, and seeing them on the paper have always been, really exciting to me. So I started at a young age and just kind of continued on and really started taking it seriously about 5 or so years ago, where I really said, okay, I'm going to do this. And I published an adult fiction novel. It's a mystery thriller. And then after that, I published a contemporary romance, which is like night and day kind of. But I think it's cool because, I'm not, set to any genre. So whatever kind of hits me, that's what I decide to write.
That is awesome. Can you tell us the names of those 2 other books in case people want to check them out?
Yes, I have them here. I'll show you.
Please do.
This is We Could Be. This one is the contemporary romance, and it's basically about an emerging fashion designer who has trust issues, and she ends up falling for a guy who's like super famous. So it's her kind of trying to deal with her own issues while dating someone who is famous and, has other people coming after him, of course. And the second one is, this was actually my first one that I published, Vengeance Be Mine, a mystery thriller. This one, she's an assassin. It's about an assassin. She owns a flower shop, but she's also an assassin. And so she ends up killing the wrong person, and it kind of sets this sort of chain of events in motion. And she has to try to figure out this mystery before, the end of the book. This was really exciting for me because I didn't see, back then, I didn't know that there were, Black mystery thriller books. And I hadn't read, a lot of them that featured us. And so I felt like it was really important for me to sort of create a book that's had us in there, but also other people of color. So there's, one of the main characters is Japanese, another one is Cuban. And so for me, it's really important to try to, incorporate people of color in our stories, just because there's a lot of them out there, but I feel like we don't get, kind of pushed out to the forefront, especially in the independent area. There's a lot of us creating, books for people of color.
Absolutely. Now, one question that we ask everyone is,
okay,
how old were you when you first read a book that had a protagonist who looked like you?
Oh, man. Wow. That feels so hard.
I know.
Man. I know it had to be, and it's probably high school, college, which is, I think it was a Zane book.
Oh, really? Awesome.
I think someone introduced me to like Zane, and that was probably the first one. And then they introduced me to Eric Jerome Dickey. Yep. But that was like high school, college. I don't remember, kids' books. And, your memory is like, but that stands out. I don't remember any that stand out before that time, which is kind of sad. Like, that's really sad. I think about it. That's an awesome question too, by the way.
Thanks. Yeah, it just sort of gets people thinking about the state of our publishing industry, right? Yeah. And so, since we're talking about the publishing industry, can you give us a little bit of insight on your publishing journey? Like, how did you get published? How do you get your books out to distributors, et cetera?
Yeah, so for me, I'm self-published. So I work as a book coach. I did editing for a while, doing freelance editing. I don't do that so much now, but I work as a book coach and I still write my own books. But for me, I don't know if I even ever considered traditional publishing. And I think I just Googled like publishing a book and stumbled onto sort of self-publishing. And I thought it was cool because you get to have, your own ideas and you get to do it however you want to do it. And that's also kind of like the downside of it because you're in charge of everything. Mm-hmm. But plus is that you're in charge of everything. So if you're a person like me who like can't let go of control and you just have to be doing all the things and be a part of all the things, self-publishing is really cool because you decide on your book cover, you decide when you want to publish, you decide how long you want to take to write the book. There's no one like on your back saying this has to be done at this time. Although for some people, they need that because they may never get it done if they don't have, that person that's sort of pushing them. But I really loved it. And it's been great. Like I did a lot of research for it. This is the third, but I actually, for this Queen Baby was my first children's book. And I thought, it's going to be so easy. I already, went through the process. I just have to find an illustrator. And it was so different getting, the illustrations done, finding an illustrator that, could illustrate in the style that I was looking for, just, formatting it. It was just really different from the process of doing, just a regular fiction book because you don't have to worry about the picture side of it, right? And you want to make sure that the pictures that are created kind of match that vision that's in your head. And it's more expensive. It's way more expensive to publish a children's book than the other ones. And I didn't know that either. So that was a cool learning lesson. But for me, I go through Amazon, but I've started more kind of selling on my own website because I feel like, again, you have more control of it. You can offer, autographed copies. You can offer, different things, different merchandise for people on your own if you're selling it through your own website as opposed to just Amazon. But Amazon is always an option. There's Ingram Spark that you can sell through, Barnes and Noble. It was a learning curve, right? But it's really fun. I feel like the process for me is it's fun, especially when you see like that end product in your hands of like, I wrote this, I created this, and all of this was crazy. I was crying tears and all this kind of stuff, but like I have the finished product here, and then to get it out to people and to hear the response of like, oh, I love this is, it just gives you so much joy, I feel like, because part of it for me, for writing Queen Baby, I wrote it shortly after I had my third baby. And it was really hard. The transition going from 2 to 3 was really rough for me. And at the time before she came, I had been writing, and then when she was born, all that just kind of like blows up. And I was feeling just really down about not being able to be creative in that way. And, just one day was kind of looking at her and was like, man, she just came and took over our life. She's ruling the household. And then I was like, maybe I can make like a cute little story about, all the changes that she's brought about in the house. And that's kind of where, Queen Baby came from.
That is so outstanding. And I can so relate. The jump from 2 to 3 is a chasm. It is, whoa.
I thought it was going to be easy, like, because 1 to 2, it wasn't that bad. And so I was like, oh, we went from 1 to 2, and my son was 3 when we had our second one. And I was like, yeah, it's going to be fine. And then he was born and it was like, why did I do this? Like,
Yes. I completely understand. Now, if there are people who are like, you know what, I have a book in me, I think I can
okay.
find an illustrator. Would you consider publishing other people's books? Are you accepting manuscripts? Is that something in the future for you?
It's definitely something I would like to do in the future, because I, as a, book coach, kind of working with writers and developing their stories and, creating them, that's always the next question that they ask is like, oh, well, now that I have it, who's going to publish it? Like, can I publish, asking if I can do it. And it's definitely something I want to do in the future, because I think it's important for people to have someone they can trust, because I've heard just crazy stories where people will, oh yeah, I'm a publisher, I'll publish your book. And, they take people's money and then they don't give them. So there's this thing that you need for your book called an ISBN, which is basically the identifier for your book. And if you go through Amazon and you do it free, Amazon is the owner of your ISBN, which means you can't like take your book to somewhere else. So if you want to upload it to another place like Ingram Spark, you can't do that. You will have to get another ISBN. So I always tell people, purchase your own ISBN. But I've heard horror stories where they will work with a company and the company purchases their ISBN for them, but does not give them the rights to their ISBN. So now if you want to take your book somewhere, you have to go to this company, right? They're not going to do it. And so then you end up having to buy it again yourself. So I definitely think it's important to have someone you can trust that, can go through the process with you. So I definitely see myself in the future being a publisher, but right now I'm not there. I would probably do it if it was a book that I just absolutely loved, like I have to do this, but at the moment, that is not, I'm not a publisher just yet.
I understand. So how did you find your illustrators? Now you said one of them was a good friend, but
Yeah.
can you sort of walk people down that path?
Yes. So I used Fiverr, which is a website where, like Elance and Upwork used to be Elance. But yeah, so like I went to Fiverr and I just kind of looked around and to see, who is doing what. And then I saw, a couple of people, I think it was about 3 people that I narrowed it down to. And I was trying to find people with like pricing with kind of sort of the cheaper end and then the middle and then, more expensive pricing. And I did end up going with someone that was a bit more expensive, but I felt like the quality of the work was a lot better. And so what I did with those people was, once I kind of looked through their work and the portfolios that they had, most of them will have just like, they'll do, a basic sort of illustration for you for like $20 or something like that. So you could, if you have an idea of what your main character looks like, then you tell them, okay, this is my character. This is how I would like them to look. If you want to give them like a color, or if you want to give them, a specific scene, because you can have that done as well. I want them to be, I think the first one I had done was, I want the baby to be in the crib, standing up, smiling, like, her dad just walked in the room and she's excited, sort of deal. And I had 3 people do that. And I just chose the one that I thought, looked the best for what I wanted to do.
So can you help people to understand a little bit the difference between self-publishing and trying to go through a traditional publisher?
Sure. So with self-publishing, it's basically you're doing it all yourself. And there's a lot of different ways that you can do self-publishing. So you can literally do everything yourself in the sense of, getting your book formatted, writing it, posting it to, the sites, Amazon, Barnes and Noble, all those different things. Or you can hire, which is called sort of a vanity press, where it's a company that kind of does all of that for you. So you upload your files and they put everything together for you. They put the cover together, all of that, but you still own your stuff. But it's important to make sure that it's a company that still allows you to, because there are some companies where you don't own, like your ISBN or things like that. So it's very important to make sure that even though you're having them do these things for you, that you're still the owner of them. So self-publishing is basically you kind of taking care of everything. On the traditional side, in order to get a traditional publisher, you have to have an agent. And basically with an agent, to find one, I've just done like Google searches or helped other people, through Google searches, or some people already know, an agent that they want. Some people go to like Instagram and find out agents, or whoever your favorite author is. You can say, okay, let me see who their agent is and find out if their agent is actually accepting submissions. So a lot of times that's what you have to do. So you have to find out, because all agents, they don't represent, every type of book. So whatever book is, we're talking about children's books. So you look for, an agent that is looking for, African-American children's books, or children's books that feature, sports themes. It may be something like very specific. Some of them are very specific. Some of them are more, a wide range, but you will look for an agent. And then once you have the agent, you give the agent, you submit your book via query. Sometimes it's a query letter that you have to create, which is just like a letter that's summarizing what your book is about. Other times, I've seen a lot of times with children's books is you just submit the entire manuscript via email, and then they'll say, okay, I like it, I don't like it, and go from there. Or if you are an author illustrator, you can submit what is called a dummy book, which is basically you create a book, a digital file of your book with the pictures and all that, and you submit that. And then they then shop your book to a publisher, or if they're already, linked up with the publisher, then they kind of take your book to the publisher. So it's definitely a different process. I think it's a lot harder doing traditional publishing, just because there is, either way you go, there's going to be competition, right? But the competition for self-publishing comes in terms of, the actual product that you're competing against. That's your main competition first, versus traditional publishing. Your first competition is competing against other authors who are also trying to get that agent, or also trying to get that publisher, right? And so they have to first accept your book, and then once it gets accepted and published, now you're competing with actual books in the market. But initially you have to get over that hump of kind of being accepted by a traditional publisher. And I've never tried that process. I do know people who have, and it's a bit hard finding, the person that kind of sees your vision for the book, because sometimes, you think what you have is great and you submit it and they're like, nope. And sometimes that can be hard for people, because if you get enough of those no's, it can feel like, well, maybe I should just quit. But I definitely would not recommend that. I do think traditional publishing is worth it if that's what you really want to do. I would definitely say to research and do the pros and cons, because even within traditional publishing, sometimes people feel like, yeah, if I'm with a traditional publisher, I'm going to blow up. I'm going to make all this money and this, that, and the third. And really the majority of people who are published through traditional publishers aren't making as much money as we think. They aren't J.K. Rowling. Like they're not, what's his name? Kwame Alexander. Like they're not making, that kind of money. But, and it's not saying that they're not making any money, but it's not, this whole like your life is now set sort of deal where you don't have to do anything. Like you're still in charge of some marketing aspects of your book, even if you're assigned to like a traditional publisher. So I definitely think it's important to kind of research them and see which one is best for you. And you could always try both, right? Like if you try to get a traditional publisher and it doesn't work out, and you say, okay, I'll self-publish and I'll put it out there myself. So you always have that option.
That's awesome. Well, thank you. And then here's one last question. Yes. You're a book coach. So yes. How do people find you? How can they get help from you? And do you have any like very small free tips that you can give? Because I'm not trying to get into the stuff that people, you have to pay for the real. But yes, but she can give you maybe a couple free tips just to wet your whistle.
Yes. So you can find me on Instagram at Gwen the Coach. That's also my website. You can go to gwenthecoach.com. I have a freebie on the website if you're someone who is, trying to start a story, but don't really have an idea for it yet. It's a freebie that helps you develop that idea and choose the genre, and also even start building out some of your scenes for it. It's more for fiction, but I definitely can help you with the children's book side. On Instagram, again, Gwen the Coach. So one thing I tell people is, a lot of people have that idea and it's not always a story. So your idea needs to be a story. And by story, a story is about transformation and change. Kids' books, if it's especially 0 to 2, it's not so much that. Like if you're writing a sort of children's book on that level, then it's not really, it doesn't have to be any transformation really, unless you want to. It's more, either a fun sort of book, an affirmational type of book, or something that's educational for that group. But if you're going kind of a little further up, middle grade, if you're thinking of adult fiction, if you're thinking of writing, a memoir, telling your own stories, because a lot of people that I've worked with lately and talked to are really interested in sort of sharing their own stories with other people. And a lot of people get nervous about doing it because they feel like, oh, I've never written anything before. I don't know what to write. And I always just say, the book is never going to be written unless you write it. And people who have written books and published them, they went through that same thing. They were nervous. They didn't know what to do. And they just say, you know what, I'm going to write it down. And the important thing is to have, that growth mindset. So to not think in terms of, I can't, but to say, okay, I don't know the process of writing a book. How can I learn, right? To look at it and say, okay, who can I go to for help? Can I do a Google search that can show me, how to write a children's book? Because if you type that in, you're going to get a ton of things to tell you how to write a children's book, right? So I think it's really important, if you're considering to write the book, to always have that growth mindset. It's okay to let, we're going to have negative thoughts of, maybe I can't do this, maybe people won't like it, this, that, or the third, but to really consider the things that you can control, which is writing that book, which is showing up and creating it, which is choosing to stay positive and saying, I can learn. Whatever I don't know, I can learn. Because that's where I was, right? When I started, I didn't know anything either. And I was just like, I want to do it. How do I do it? Okay. And every time you do it, you learn more and more. The process, you just continue. I feel like every book you write, you're going to have so much knowledge from your previous one, and it's going to teach you so much more within that next one. So I think that's the best advice, or some of the best advice that I can give, is really to just have that growth mindset and to really just push through. Even if you feel scared, it doesn't mean that you don't do it. Like, you do it scared, right? I'm scared about this, but I'm going to write it anyway.
That is great advice. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Yes, and thank you for spending your time with us here today.
Thanks for having me.
Folks, definitely check out gwenthecoach.com if you've got a book idea, a little germ of an idea, and she's got a freebie on the website. She can help you out. And definitely, if you do not have it through Jumbo Books, pick up Queen Baby for your 0 to 2-year-olds. It is lots of fun and very cute. And I think a lot of both kids and parents will be able to relate to it. So thank you again, Gwen.
So much.
All right. Bye-bye.